Today we'll be making flaxseed muffins, and I have most of the ingredients laid out here. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually, I've already added the water, but I have 2/3 of a cup of raisins, and I've added some boiling hot water, about 1/4 cup, to the raisins, and I'm just letting those sit while I mix the rest of the ingredients together. The next thing I'll do is I'll get a bowl where I will mix my dry ingredients together. So the first thing I'll add is 1.5 cups of flour. Generally when I cook, I use, for baking, for cakes, muffins, whatnot, I'll use a whole wheat pastry flour. That is a finely ground whole wheat flour. That most people actually can't tell the difference in from all-purpose flour in their baking. I'm going to be sharing these with a friend that can't have wheat, so I will actually be using spelt flour instead today. But you can use whatever you want. The next thing that I'll add to that is some ground flaxseed meal. You can buy flax seeds already ground, which is what I've done. This is Bob's Red Mill brand, and you just keep them stored in the refrigerator. So I have measured out 1/2 cup of ground flax seeds, and I'll add that to the dry ingredients. Flax seeds are great because they are the most concentrated plant source of omega-3 fatty acids, which we're always needing to get more of in the diet. So that's one of the main reasons I've chosen this recipe, is to show you how to use quite a large amount of them in one particular dish. And to that, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of oats. And I'm using old-fashioned oats, but you can use quick oats. I don't recommend instant. They tend to break down a little bit more. So I will add those to the mix. And because the friend that I'm sharing with can't have gluten, I am making sure to use oats that aren't contaminated in processing, but if you can use whichever ones you want depending on your dietary needs. And I will add to that 2 teaspoons of baking powder, which I have here, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, which is optional, but it helps to bring out the flavors in baked goods. And the next thing is just a dash of nutmeg, a dash of cloves, and a teaspoon of cinnamon. So I'll add all that in there. Okay, and then how I tend to mix dry ingredients together in most of my recipes, instead of sifting, I just whisk everything together until I don't see any clumps of one particular color or another. And just want to make sure the leavening, the baking soda and baking powder is really well dispersed so that whatever you're making rises easily and evenly. So that's that. In another bowl, I'm going to add all the liquid ingredients. So the first liquid ingredient is actually eggs. I am, as I mentioned, making entirely plant-based dishes, and these will be vegan and gluten-free muffins actually. So instead of eggs, I'm going to use some egg replacer, which I will actually add in a minute. If you were using actual eggs, you would add them and just whisk them quickly just to incorporate the yellow and the whites together. I'm going to add a cup of buttermilk, but instead of milk, if you're using soy milk or rice milk or even regular milk, and you want to turn it into a buttermilk substitute, all you do is you add 1 teaspoon of white vinegar or any kind of vinegar to the bottom of a measuring cup, and then fill it up to the 1 cup line with your milk, whether it's soy milk, rice milk, or cow's milk. I'm baking with soy milk today, so I added that, and it kind of curdles, and it looks pretty disgusting actually, but that's what you want it to do. That acid in there is going to react with the baking soda and the dried goods to help the final product to rise. So do that. Now that I have this already dirty measuring cup, and I don't want to do any extra dishes, I will add my egg replacer, which is just this kind of 70s looking box that you can buy at the store. You can also use another method that I will post to the blog when I get it up and running, where you just can add a couple more tablespoons of flaxseed and a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder to this mix, and then otherwise use a 1/2 cup of liquid. So what I'm going to do with this recipe is add 2 tablespoons of the egg replacer to my measuring cup. And then I'm actually going to drain the liquid from these raisins into the measuring cup. Got a raisin in there, got a couple of them, that's fine. Okay. And then the total liquid that I want is up to 1/2 cup. So I'm going to take my water and add it to 1/2 cup. And then I'm just going to give that a stir and mix it together until the egg replacer is dissolved pretty well. It only takes a couple of stirs. If you have a few clumps, it's not that big of a deal. It'll dissolve when we whisk it together. I'm going to add that to my buttermilk. And again, if you were using eggs, then you wouldn't add this extra liquid. 2 eggs would equal about the amount of liquid and egg replacer that I mixed together in this measuring cup. So this is an equal exchange. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some liquid sweetener to the liquid ingredients. I'm going to use 4 tablespoons of agave syrup, but you can use maple syrup, you can use honey. I'm not a big corn syrup fan, but you could use corn syrup. Basically whatever you want that is liquid. You could also add a tablespoon of water and then add about a 1/4 cup of sugar as well. I have my honey in there. The next thing I'm going to do is just add about 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I'm just going to mix together well all of the wet ingredients. And that stray raisin that's kind of floating around in there. And then I'm going to add these 2 bowls of ingredients together, the wet and the dry. But first I'm going to add the raisins to the dry mixture. And the reason that I'm doing that is that, and giving it a quick stir, is that if you coat the raisins with a flour mixture, then it will help prevent them from sinking to the bottom of the muffin. So you won't just have a glob of raisins in the bottom of each muffin. Okay. And now I'll add in my wet ingredients. And I'm just going to give this a quick stir. You don't want to beat together muffins or quick breads, it will make them tough. So I'm just going to make sure that everything is moistened. If there's a couple lumps in there, that's okay. It's better to have a couple lumps of dry ingredients than to mix it for too long. So that is done. And now I'm just going to measure this into my muffin cups. I'm going to fill them 2/3 the way full, and then I'm going to put them in a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes, and then take a toothpick and poke it into the muffin, and then see if it comes out with any crumbs or any liquid ingredients on there. And if it doesn't, they're done. If it does, put them in for another 2-3 minutes, check again, and as soon as your toothpick comes out clean, they're finished. And then what you'll want to do is take them out of the oven, set them onto a rack, let them cool for a minute or 2 until you can touch them basically, and then you'll remove the muffins, set them out on the cooling rack, let them cool completely to room temperature, and then they're ready to eat, store. You can eat them warm, of course. What I like to do is make, this makes about 14 or 15 muffins. I like to make a full batch of muffins, let them cool completely to room temperature, and then store them in a Ziploc baggie in the freezer. And then in the morning, when I'm running out the door to work, clinic, just finishing up with a workout and going to a meeting, anything, I'll grab 1 or 2 of them, throw them in the microwave for 20 seconds or so to defrost them, and they're great.